In a quiet part of Nigeria, there was a small village called Oguta Village. The village was close to a wide and peaceful lake known as Oguta Lake. Many people in this village were farmers and fishermen. Life was simple there, and every day looked almost the same. In this village lived a man called Amos. Amos was a fisherman. He was not rich, he was not famous. He was just a simple man trying to survive. He lived alone in a small mud house with a weak zinc roof that made noise whenever rain fell. Amos had no wife and no children. His parents had died many years ago, so he depended only on himself and on God. Every morning, Amos woke up very early, even before the sun showed its face. While the village was still quiet and dark, Amos was already awake. When the rooster crowed loudly, "Kokoroko," Amos slowly sat up from his sleeping mat. He rubbed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Thank you, God, for another day," he said softly. He stood up, washed his face with cold water from a small bucket, and said a short prayer. After that, he prepared for his daily work, fishing. Fishing was the only job Amos knew. It was how he ate, how he paid small bills, and how he stayed alive. Amos carefully gathered his fishing tools. He had an old fishing net with small holes that he had repaired many times. He also had a hook and fishing line, a small knife, a plastic bucket, and a wooden paddle. These tools were not new, but Amos treated them like treasure because they were his source of life. He wore a faded brown shirt, a short trouser, and old rubber slippers that were almost tearing apart. His clothes were simple, but they were clean. Anyone who saw Amos could tell that he was a poor man, but also a hard-working one. Outside his house stood his old bicycle. The bicycle was weak and rusty, but it still worked. Amos pushed it, climbed on it, and began riding slowly toward the lake. As he rode, the cool morning breeze touched his face. Birds were flying from tree
Good morning,
to tree.
Amos.
Good
morning,
were sweeping
everyone.
their compounds, and children were still sleeping. Some
Good morning,
villagers greeted
Amos.
him
Good morning,
as he
everyone.
passed. "Good morning, Amos," they said. "Good morning," Amos replied with a small smile. When Amos finally reached Oguta Lake, the sun was just coming up. The water looked wide, calm, and shiny. Amos pulled his small wooden boat closer to the shore. He placed his tools inside, stepped into the boat carefully, and pushed himself into the lake using his paddle. Once on the lake, Amos started his work. First, he threw his fishing net into the water. He waited patiently. After some time, he pulled it back. There was no fish inside. His heart sank a little, but he did not give up. He tried again. Still nothing. Amos then picked his hook and line. He tied a small bait and dropped it into the water. He waited quietly, watching the water closely. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. He waited longer. Still no fish. The sun climbed higher in the sky. It became hot. Sweat rolled down Amos's face. His stomach began to growl, but he kept trying. He moved his boat to another part of the lake and tried again. He whispered to himself, "Today must be better. I just need one good catch." He used every fishing method he knew. He threw the net again and again. He used the hook and line. He changed positions on the lake, but the lake gave him nothing. By afternoon, Amos was very tired. His hands were weak. His eyes were heavy. He looked into his bucket. It was still empty, not even one small fish. His heart felt heavy. As the sun slowly started going down, Amos stopped rowing. He sat quietly in the boat and stared at the water. His shoulders dropped. His face was full of sadness. "From morning till now, nothing," he said quietly, "not even one fish." He felt disappointed. He felt sad and hopeless. Fishing was his only source of income, and today it had failed him. Slowly, Amos paddled his boat back to the shore. The sky was turning orange and red. Evening was coming. Amos packed his fishing tools, placed them on his bicycle, and began pushing it as he walked home. His steps were slow. His head was down. Amos did not know that this sad day, which started like every other day, was about to change his life forever. As he walked along the lake shore, tired and hungry, something unexpected was waiting for him. Amos continued pushing his bicycle slowly along the lake shore. The evening breeze was cool, but his heart felt heavy. His stomach was empty, and his mind was full of worries. He kept thinking about how he would sleep that night without food, and how tomorrow would be another long day of struggling. As he walked, the sky began to grow darker. The sun was almost gone, and the light in the sky was turning purple and gray. It was getting late, almost 7:30 in the evening. Most people had already gone home. The lake shore, which was busy in the daytime, was now very quiet. Suddenly, Amos heard a sound. It was soft crying. He stopped walking and looked around. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but when he listened carefully again, he heard it clearly. 2 children crying. Amos felt surprised and a little worried. Who can be crying here at this time? He wondered. He pushed his bicycle closer to where the sound was coming from. Near the edge of the lake, under a small tree, Amos saw 2 young children sitting on the ground. One was a boy, and the other was a girl. They looked about 8 to 10 years old. Their clothes were dusty. Their faces were wet with tears. They looked tired, scared, and lonely. Amos's heart softened immediately. He forgot his tiredness and his hunger. He moved closer to them and bent down a little. "My children," Amos said gently, "what are you doing here by the lake at this time?" The children did not answer. Amos tried again, speaking more kindly. "It is late already. Where are your parents? Why are you crying?" Still, the children said nothing. They only cried more. Amos became worried. "Are you lost?" he asked. "Did someone bring you here? Do you live in this village?" He asked many questions, but the children did not reply. They did not even look at him properly. At first, Amos felt confused. Then he started to feel a little upset. He looked at his own clothes, his faded shirt, his old slippers, and his dusty bicycle. A thought entered his mind. "Maybe these children think I am not important," he said to himself. "Maybe they are ignoring me because I am poor." His face slowly changed from kindness to sadness. Amos did not know that the children were not being rude. He did not know that the boy could not hear and also had a stammer, and that the girl could not speak and could not see. He thought they were just refusing to answer him. Suddenly, the boy tried to talk. He struggled to speak. His mouth shook, and his voice came out broken. See, sir." Before he could finish, the boy suddenly collapsed. He fell to the ground and stopped moving. Amos became very scared. "Hey, what happened?" he shouted. He dropped his bicycle and rushed to the boy. He held him and shook him gently. "Wake up! Please wake up!" The girl started crying louder. She stretched her hands, trying to touch her brother, not knowing what was happening. Amos realized that something was very wrong. The boy was not responding. His body felt weak. Amos later would know that the boy had a heart problem, but at that moment, all he knew was that the child had fainted. Amos's heart was beating fast. His mind was full of fear. "If someone comes now and sees me with these children," he thought, "they may say I kidnapped them." But Amos looked at the 2 children again. They were helpless. They were alone. The night was coming. There was no one else around the lake to help them. Amos sighed deeply. "I cannot leave you here," he said softly. "Even if trouble comes, I must help you." He lifted the boy carefully and placed him on his back. The boy was light and weak. Amos held him tightly so he would not fall. Then he helped the girl stand and gently guided her to sit on the back carrier of his bicycle. Amos held the bicycle with one hand and walked slowly. His legs were tired, but his heart pushed him forward. Step by step, he moved away from the lake toward his home. The road was quiet. The sky was dark. The only sound was the bicycle rolling slowly and the girl's soft crying. Amos did not know who these children were. He did not know where they came from. But one thing was clear in his heart. He could not abandon them. And so, with the fainted boy on his back and the blind girl on his bicycle, Amos continued his slow journey home, unaware that this simple act of kindness was about to change his life forever. Amos finally reached his small house late that night. The moon was already high in the sky, and the village was quiet. Dogs barked far away, and crickets made soft sounds in the bushes. Amos opened his wooden door carefully and entered his house. Inside, the house was very simple. There was a small table, a broken chair, a mat on the floor, and a small charcoal stove in the corner. It was not a fine place, but it was safe. Amos gently laid the boy on his sleeping mat. The boy was still weak and breathing slowly. Amos knelt beside him and whispered, "Please, my son, be strong." The girl stood quietly near the wall. She could not see where she was. She stretched her hands forward, touching the wall and the chair, trying to understand her surroundings. Amos noticed this and felt something strange in his heart. "Ah, this girl cannot see," Amos thought, "and she cannot speak." At that moment, Amos also realized that the boy had not reacted to any sound. When Amos spoke loudly near his ear, the boy did not move. "That means this boy cannot hear," Amos said to himself. Amos felt deep pain in his heart. "These children are not ignoring me," he whispered. "They are disabled." He felt sorry for thinking badly of them earlier. Amos quickly fetched water and used a cloth to clean the boy's face. After some time, the boy slowly opened his eyes. He looked confused and scared. Amos smiled gently at him and placed his hand on his chest to show peace. "It is okay," Amos said calmly, though the boy could not hear him. Amos then went to his small kitchen area. He had very little food, but he decided to share everything. He cooked a small pot of rice and beans. The food was not much, but Amos served the children first before himself. He guided the girl's hand to the plate so she could eat. He helped the boy sit up and eat slowly. He watched them carefully, making sure they were okay. That night, Amos slept on the floor while the children slept on his mat. He kept waking up to check if the boy was breathing well. The next morning, Amos woke up early again. He looked at the children and sighed. "What will I do now?" he asked himself. But something in his heart answered him. "I will take care of them." From that day, Amos's life changed. He became a father overnight. Every morning, Amos woke up, cleaned the house, cooked simple food, and made sure the children were okay before going out. Sometimes he went to the lake to fish, and sometimes he did small jobs around the village to get food. He learned how to communicate with the children using signs and touch. He held the boy's hand to calm him. He guided the girl carefully so she would not fall. Slowly, the children began to trust him. Days passed. One day became two, two became 5. Soon, one full week passed. During that week, Amos spent his little savings. He bought food, medicine, and clothes for the children. He did not complain. He did not regret it. At night, Amos prayed, "God, if this is your plan for me, I accept it. Thank you for giving me children." Amos had always prayed for a family. Now he felt that God had answered him, even though the answer came in a strange way. The children were no longer crying all the time. They smiled sometimes. They felt safe. Amos was still poor, but his house was now filled with life. He did not know that outside his small world, something big was happening, something that would soon knock on his door and test his heart. One early morning, after the children had slept well through the night, Amos woke up as usual. The sun had not yet risen, but the village was slowly coming to life. He sat up, looked at the two children sleeping peacefully on his mat, and smiled. "My children," he whispered, "I will go to the market and come back quickly." Amos knew the house was running out of food. The little savings he had were almost finished, but he still needed to buy things for the children. So he picked his bicycle, tied a small bag to it, and headed towards the village market.
Tomatoes, fresh tomatoes here.
Busy.
Coming through, best
Women were
tomatoes.
shouting
I'll take 2
prices.
kilos.
And some
Men were
cucumbers.
pushing wheelbarrows. The smell of fresh food filled the air. Amos
Good to see
greeted
you, my
people
friend.
as he walked
You
his
too.
bicycle
The mangoes look
through
good
the
today.
crowd.
They are. I'll
"Good
see you
morning,
around.
Amos," some people said. "Good morning," he replied, smiling politely. Amos bought salt, beans, rice, flour, cooking oil, and milk for the children. He counted his money carefully. When he finished, he had almost nothing left. Still, he felt happy. "At least my children will eat," he said to himself. Amos tied the food to his bicycle and began pushing it slowly out of the market. He stopped now and then to greet people. Suddenly, the market became quiet. A loud voice came from a town crier standing on a raised platform, beating a metal
Attention!
gong. Gong, gong,
Attention!
gong. Attention!
Attention!
Attention! The man shouted. Everyone stopped to listen. "By order of King Obuku, the ruler of this land," the man continued, "2 royal children are missing." Amos stopped walking. The announcer spoke louder. "The king lost his 2 children last week, a boy and a girl. The boy is deaf and stammers, and the girl is blind and mute." Amos felt a strange feeling in his chest. The man continued, "Anyone who finds these children and brings them to King Obuku's palace will be rewarded with 10 million naira." People gasped. "But," the man shouted, "anyone who hides the children and fails to bring them back within 2 days will be accused of kidnapping and will face life imprisonment." Amos froze. His heart started beating fast. "These children, deaf boy, blind girl," he whispered. His hands shook on the bicycle handle. Could it be? He asked himself. Amos remembered the boy's stammer. He remembered how the girl could not see or speak. His legs became weak. "God," he whispered. For a moment, Amos felt fear. "What if they think I kidnapped them?" he thought. But another thought entered his mind, stronger than fear. 10 million naira, he said quietly. That money could change his life. No more suffering, no more hunger, no more struggling every day. "I can return the children and start a new life," Amos said to himself. Without wasting time, Amos climbed onto his bicycle and began to ride fast. The food on the bicycle shook as he rode. People shouted at him to slow down. But Amos did not stop. "I must reach home quickly," he said. "I must take the children to the palace." His heart was filled with hope for the first time in many years. He did not know that trouble was waiting for him on the road ahead. Amos rode his bicycle very fast, faster than he had ever ridden before. His mind was not on the road. It was filled with many thoughts at the same time. 10 million naira, he whispered again and again. "I can change my life. I can eat well. I can build a good house. The road from the market to his village was narrow and rough. There were stones, small holes, and sharp bends. Normally, Amos would ride slowly and carefully, but that day, his heart was rushing faster than his legs. Suddenly, a big motorcycle came from the opposite direction. The rider was speeding. Amos tried to move aside, but his bicycle hit a stone on the road. The bicycle lost balance. Before Amos could shout, he fell hard. Bam! Amos screamed in pain. His bicycle rolled into the bush. The food he bought scattered on the road. People nearby ran toward him. My leg, Amos cried. He tried to stand up, but he could not. His leg bent in a strange way. The pain was sharp and strong. Amos felt dizzy. Some villagers lifted him carefully.
On three, lift!
This leg
Easy
is
now,
broken,
we've got you.
one man said. They quickly took Amos to a nearby government hospital. It was not a big hospital, but it was the only one around. At the hospital, doctors checked Amos and took an X-ray. After some time, a nurse came out and spoke. He has a fractured leg, she said. He must stay here for treatment. Amos was admitted. As he lay on the hospital bed, Amos's mind was not on himself. It was on the children. My children. They are alone, he whispered. At home, the children waited. The sun went down that day. The children stayed quietly inside the house. Amos had left cooked food for lunch and supper. They ate slowly and carefully. The first night passed. The second day, hunger came again. The food was almost finished. The boy felt weak. The girl sat quietly, holding her stomach. They waited. The second night came, still no Amos. On the third day, there was no food left. The children sat close to each other. Their faces were thin. Their bodies were weak. Back at the hospital, Amos cried silently. God, please help me, he said. I wanted to do good. After 3 long days, the doctors said he could go home. His leg was wrapped in a cast. He could not walk well. He used a stick and walked slowly. Amos rushed home as fast as his broken leg could carry him. When he reached his house, his heart broke. The children were very hungry. They were thin and weak. Their eyes looked tired. Amos sat down and cried. I am sorry, he said again and again. They sat together in silence, all of them worried about what would happen next. Amos did not know that time was already running out, and danger was close to his door. The morning after Amos returned from the hospital was quiet, but something bad was already moving through the village. King Obuku's soldiers were walking from house to house. They were looking everywhere. They were asking questions. They were angry. At Amos's small house, the children were still weak from hunger. Amos sat on a low stool, his leg in pain, using a stick to support himself. He was thinking of how to find food when suddenly, bang, 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 the door was hit hard. Open this door, a loud voice shouted. Before Amos could even stand, the door was broken open. Soldiers rushed inside. They carried guns and sticks. Their faces were hard. Where did you get these children? One soldier shouted. Amos raised his hands slowly. Please, let me explain, he said, his voice shaking. The soldiers did not listen. They grabbed Amos and dragged him outside. His broken leg hit the ground. He screamed in pain. The children cried and tried to hold on to him, but the soldiers pushed them away. Kidnapper, one soldier shouted. They pulled the children out and tied Amos's hands. They burnt his small house. Fire rose into the sky. Everything Amos owned was destroyed in minutes. Amos was beaten, stripped of his clothes, and left wearing only his torn pant. Blood ran from his face. He tried to speak, but no one listened. The children tried to help. The boy tried to speak with his broken words. The girl cried and used her hands to explain, but their disabilities made it hard for the soldiers to understand. The soldiers lifted the children on their backs and forced Amos to walk with his injured leg. They pushed him again and again until they reached the palace of King Obuku. Inside the palace, King Obuku was seated on his throne. When he saw his children, his face changed. His eyes filled with joy. He stood up quickly. "My children," he cried. The soldiers smiled proudly. But when the king looked again and saw Amos, beaten, bleeding, and walking with a broken leg, his heart softened. "Stop," the king commanded. The soldiers froze. "Untie him," King Obuku said. The king looked closely at Amos. He saw pain, fear, and honesty in his eyes. "Who is this man?" the king asked calmly. Amos bowed slowly. "My king, I am innocent," he said. "I found your children at the lake and took care of them." The king ordered the soldiers to step aside. Amos was taken inside the palace. He was given clean water to bathe, fine clothes, and food. He ate with the king and his family. Later, Amos told his story from the beginning, how he met the children, how he cared for them, and how he got injured trying to return them. King Obuku listened carefully. After a long silence, the king spoke. 30 years ago, the king said softly, "I lost my first son. His mother left the palace with him. I have searched for them ever since." As the king described the woman, Amos felt cold. "My king," Amos said slowly, "that woman was my mother." The palace became silent. King Obuku stood up, shaking. Tears rolled down his face. To be sure, the king ordered a DNA test. Days later, the results came back. Amos was the king's son. King Obuku hugged Amos tightly. "My son," he cried. A poor fisherman had returned as a prince, but the whole village had not yet heard the full story. When the DNA test results came back, the truth was clear to everyone in the palace. Amos was not just a poor fisherman. He was the lost son of King Obuku, the true prince of the land. King Obuku could not control his joy. Tears rolled down his face as he held Amos tightly. "My son, my blood, my flesh," the king said again and again. "I searched for you for many years." Amos also cried. For the first time in his life, he understood why his life had been full of pain and struggle. Everything suddenly made sense. The king quickly ordered his servants, "Take my son to the royal chambers, care for him, treat his leg, give him the best clothes." Doctors came and checked Amos's leg properly. He was given better treatment and medicine. Servants helped him walk. They bathed him, dressed him in fine royal clothes, and placed him in a clean, beautiful room. When Amos looked at himself, he could not believe his eyes. "Is this really me?" he whispered. King Obuku then ordered a great celebration. "My lost son has returned," he announced. "The whole village must rejoice." Messengers were sent everywhere. Drums were beaten. Trumpets were blown. Food was prepared in
This one
large
is
pots.
thickening nicely.
Goats and cows
Yes, keep
were
stirring.
slaughtered.
The rice is all.
The palace was filled with music and dancing. All the chiefs, elders, and village people gathered at the palace. Everyone was surprised. "Is that not Amos, the poor fisherman?" they whispered. "How did he become a prince?" King Obuku stood before the people and raised his hand. "This man," the king said, "is my first son. He suffered outside the palace, but he has returned. From today, he is a prince of this land." The people shouted with joy. The two children ran to Amos and held his hands. Amos bent down and hugged them. "These are the children who brought me back to my father," he said. The king rewarded Amos not just with money, but with honor, love, and a place in the palace. Amos never forgot his humble beginnings. He spoke kindly to the poor. He helped the weak. He remembered the lake, the bicycle, and the hard days. The village learned a great lesson that day. Kindness never goes to waste. Good deeds may suffer first, but they never fail. And no matter how low a person falls, destiny can lift them high. And so Amos, the poor fisherman, became Prince Amos, living proof that life can change in one moment, from grass to grace.